gonna be great.
I'm very happy with the way God of War 2 came out. Provided we hit our mark, I was pretty confident that our sales would be better than God of War 1, but I was rather skeptical that our reviews would be. God of War 2, I think at the end of the day, probably equaled, if not slightly exceeded the first, which I was not expecting, and it was quite satisfying.
I can't believe I'm fucking doing this. I deserve this one, then. This is the final chapter. So I think big goals for me are to finish this off in such a grand, epic fashion, something that is truly befitting of what we've done, what we've set up in 1 and 2.
All right, this is for revenge story.
God of War 2 ended up being everything we ever hoped it would be, and probably a bit more. It got reviewed very well. I honestly feel like it was probably about as good a game as is likely to be made on the PS2, and I'm very proud that we managed to do that.
Oh, one big family here at SCEA.
Once you start something, you gotta finish it. So that's the way I look at things. God of War 3 is gonna be the conclusion to the story. My hope is to make the best effects I can on the last one.
When I think of God of War, I think of the best action platformer out there right now. I think other games and other companies look at us and go, how are they doing it? How can we make it like them? And that's rad, because I've totally been at the company where we looked at that game and went, man, how do we do that, you know?
My main hope is that it escapes the destiny of sequels as well as God of War 2 has escaped the destiny of sequels.
I'm going to be satisfied if we tie it all up and we can kind of close the book.
We're past the stage of figuring out what we want to do. We're now in the early phases of sorting out the how we're going to do it.
Next Friday will be my last day at Sony Santa Monica. The bomb was dropped. It was somber and everyone was quiet and no one said anything, and perhaps there was a tad bit of shock. It's killed me because I really didn't want to say something, but it's just nothing you can say is going to come across as anything but you're an asshole.
When I heard that Corey was going to leave was kind of annoyance more than anything. It's, you know, it takes a long time to make a successful team as much as a successful product. It's always a pain when a key person in that team decides to move on.
First emotion we felt was just shock. Didn't see it coming, didn't expect it. It's like dropping a bomb.
Well, it was disbelief, obviously. I thought he would be the last one to leave.
Incredibly bummed out, like very, very disappointed.
You know, you're never really prepared for something like that, you know. They don't warn you very well either. They just kind of spring it on you.
It was kind of a bit of a shock. I never expected that Corey would leave the project, so. But once the initial shock died down, I couldn't help but being a little bit happy for him, so because he was getting to try new things.
It kind of puts us in a little bit of turmoil for now, but I think we'll work it out.
I'm glad he has the balls to stick to whatever it is that he wants, but I'm also a little pissed that he's leaving us in the lurch, just kind of like holding the bag.
I mean, I know I want to be here. If he needs to be someplace else, that's what he's got to do. And I think it's better that it happened at this stage in the project than a year from now, obviously.
It obviously is a very difficult choice and a difficult time and not a very happy choice to be making. But, you know, on the horizon, the doors are opening.
Of course, it's hard to imagine someone stepping into Corey's shoes. He's amazing.
Many people wondered whether we could do God of War 2 without David Jaffe, who did God of War 1, and I think we succeeded at that. I think we can succeed at creating a third version without Corey Barlog.
I think it's kind of neat, actually. A different director for each chapter.
When I became director, there was a very warm response from the team. I got a lot of tons of support, and I mean, so far everybody's been super cool. I look back on how Corey handled things and how Dave handled things, and I draw inspiration. I think the most important thing that I got from both of those guys is the fact that they were themselves.
I'm super excited about this. You know, this team kicks ass, you know, and it's said a lot, but this type of situation, the kind of garbage that we've been going through in the last month, as far as I'm concerned, this team's second to none.
But Stig is fucking amazing.
Stig's a pretty good leader, I think mostly because you're probably afraid of him when you first meet him.
The entire team really respects him. Everybody communicates well with him, and he's not unfair with any of his decision makings.
From my perspective, he is much more easier to work with. He is much more structured and engineer friendly.
One of my strengths is to try to lead by example. Hopefully that filters through to the rest of the team and they're able to approach their tasks with total excellence.
All those leads from the last game, those key people, they're in place. And that's really where the personality of the studio comes from. That's where the drive of the team comes from, wanting to critique every element and make everything that's in the game the best that it can be. It really is driven from the leads and from the culture of this studio, and that has not changed, even through the turnover.
So working on the PS3 is very, very challenging. It's a lot of new technology and a lot of new techniques are required to make a game on the PS3, which means that we have to learn some completely new techniques for writing our game code. It's also a completely new graphics processor, so we have to learn about those graphics techniques and work out how we expose them to the artist in order to make the best possible art and give the game the look that the art team is interested in. We have a similar set of problems working with the designers. People's expectations for games on the PS3 are much higher. They want to see, you know, more enemies and more complicated effects and, you know, more ragdoll physics on the characters and, you know, realistic looking reactions when you hit people. So yeah, there's a tremendous amount of challenge working on the PS3.
God of War 2, the team was able to throw so many things into the game and get things up and running and finding out, is that fun or not? The hard transition for God of War 3 is getting all that to work again because we have so much new technology that has to be built.
You know what I'm saying?
Everybody has to relearn their own personal expectations and their limitations and how they're projecting their schedules and their tasks and things like that. Everybody is counted on everybody else to kind of make accurate predictions on what they can do. It's tough right now because everything's new. It's just so much more involved. That's very worrisome. When are we going to get to the point where we can say something's going to take 4 weeks to do and it's really going to take 4 weeks to do? It's understandable that nobody understands that right now.
PlayStation 3, we're able to push a lot more polygons, a lot more texture resolution and detail, so things are hyper realistic. I mean, they're so realistic now that we can actually see pores on skin and hair and eyebrows and nose hairs. You can see everything. We have a lot of work ahead of us.
Every character now is like taking 6 weeks, 8 weeks.
At least 6 weeks.
Yeah, to make one. It's not like before, it's like 5 days we can make one.
For me, it's not knowing kind of where the limits are. You can make stuff look so super realistic now, and that takes a lot of time. Whereas before, we really had defined limits.
Yeah, it's exponentially more complex. And the other big thing is this is going to be our first PlayStation 3 game, and we're expected to be able to beat games that some studios have released 2, 3, even 4. Gamers are expecting us to have better technology, better art, better visuals, better gameplay. Across the board, they expect it to be better. And that's pretty intimidating in itself.
We're going crazy with the detail. When it's done, I think it's going to look incredible.
You're going to see Kratos do a lot more subtle movement, more facial animation, things that the human eye just, you know, usually takes for granted, but now we can include all those things.
The things that we can actually accomplish are starting to now really become things that are only limited by our imagination.
With the new hardware and the new system, we're able to kind of start pushing the player experience and creating like a much more kind of cohesive world. And like, you know, the Titan before used to be in a cinematic and now you're actually like running on the damn thing. So it's like, you know, whoa, you know, we're getting there.
Titans, we've never done anything like that.
They're pretty crazy.
It's insane. The fact that you're going to be able to run around this like moving character and it's basically a moving level, it's pretty insane.
From a a programming perspective, they're a big challenge. We designed all of our animation systems and everything to deal with a roughly 2 meter high character.
Exactly.
Where, if his little finger twitches slightly, there's not too much of a big deal.
Exactly.
But when your character's like 2 kilometers high, then a little twitch in the finger suddenly becomes like a really big deal. The very first moment those were mentioned, I was like, oh Jesus, this is going to be a big problem.
Yes.
But hey, I mean, it wouldn't be God of War if we didn't try something we didn't think we could do when we started.
Because I'm very proud of this game and you guys, I've invited a storyteller friend of mine to come in our walkabout. So Stan Lee is going to join us today and check out your work.
This is such a cool time to be just walking around the studio and looking at things as they're coming online. Every month, we do a walkabout, and it's largely for the team to kind of, review each other's work and, and really compliment each other.
It's a big studio now, there's like 80 people here, and really it's impossible to keep on top of everything that any given part of the group has been working on. It's an opportunity for everyone to see what cool stuff has been going on in the studio. It's a good way of making everyone realize that they're part of a big machine at this point.
Plus, everything looks better after you had a couple beers. So it helps to make your stuff look better.
Everyone's out to get. Yes. These are all, it's Olympus, the gods, and they're all bad. All the gods are bad except this guy who's tormented.
Yes.
That's great.
His line is, in the end, there will only be chaos.
And then the next game you do is called Chaos. That's a great sequel.
There you go. Zeus's brother Poseidon.
Terrific. Terrific drawings.
Hera.
Yeah. I love to write dialogue. Maybe we could try something new. A video game with lots of dialogue. I'm sure it would sell like a bomb. And I love the way this hand is there. Oh, gosh.
Oh, yeah, and then when he moves the hand, we'll like make that to kind of get destroyed a little bit and get all kinds of dust flying off of it.
This is one of the best things I've ever seen.
Cool.
That is beautiful.
Last thing Corey did before he left.
Okay, so long, fellas.
We're just giving each other props here.
Yeah.
Cheers.
There's no such thing as a bad walkabout because, beer at work.
And also, Stanley rules! Woo, woo!
Just crawling up there.
It's Stanley.
Stanley!
I'm fine with it as long as we make it seem like it's in-game as much as possible.
I'm still learning every single day, and I imagine that process won't ever end. And there's so many things that you can learn from every individual on this team.
Stig is kind of man of the team, very easygoing, very casual, but he's also extremely intelligent, very thoughtful. I think the thing that's been successful for him is that people just want to help him out. They just want to make a good game.
Stig just keeps pushing along. He's got 2 brand new twins at home, and
yeah, it just keeps on
He's got this other baby, this big baby on his back right now, so he's doing great.
Since last Halloween, we made a lot of progress. We've got the story of the game done. We've got the whole design direction completed. 3 months from now, we're going to be doing our press event.
Everyone gets to go home early!
The first couple times when Stig addressed the team, it was so clear how nervous he was. He would kind of stumble on his words, and he'd literally, turn red, like a stoplight. It was really kind of endearing. But then to watch him sort of evolve, and honestly, I think I was a little bit concerned that, our game director is our public face. And we actually gave him, some media training. And Stig actually asking people, he says, honestly, I don't want to think about all this stuff. I just want to be myself. Is that okay? And they said, you know what? Absolutely.
That looks good.
Oh, wow. If that's how tall Kratos is, he's probably closer to the size of this.
We picked the venue and the location for the spot, and we brought all the media here. We have something like 60 people here from the media. I can't wait for them to see the actual gameplay. These guys are going to be thrilled.
Love Kratos. Kratos is hot. Be nice to see if he ends up a god or destroying Olympus. I do love the violence as well. The women are very beautiful. new characters they've brought to us, what new enemies, and I'm really excited.
I also want the sizzle, you know? Maybe we can just focus it in a little bit more. We can play with that a little bit. Yeah.
The development team has worked so hard on this project, so it's really fun to see when all their hard work comes to fruition.
I'm going to get through the first couple slides up here, and then I'm going to start to walk around. Nobody has seen the gameplay outside of our studio, so this is going to be the first time. I want to get this over with. I'm nervous, but I'm also excited about this. I think we've got something really cool to show. I'm looking forward to seeing people's reactions.
Can we play it?
This is our first big kind of press thing. There's definitely some nerves with that. Anxious. I'm definitely anxious. The best thing that could happen today is people think it's awesome. You know, it totally kicks ass. The worst thing that could happen today is that people just flat out think it sucks. I don't think that's going to happen, but you never know with these media people. What is the vision for God of War 3? We want to define this generation with this game. We're going to take a close look at him. I'll talk about some of the features that we're using on him. Here he is. We've got blended normal maps on him right now, so you can see the realistic muscle flexing. I would imagine that we've got one of the most advanced systems for that in the industry right now. The battle's in full swing. The god Helios is in battle with a massive titan. And Kratos is going to launch into battle and start doing some damage on the grunts here. Now, Todd can easily just grab one of the grunts by pressing circle, and if he continues pressing circle, he can beat the crap out of him. But if he presses triangle, then he can rip them apart. If he presses X, then he can throw them. And one more move, square uses it as a battering ram, and then he can take it, mash circle, smash his head against the wall. And all these moves are interchangeable. Meet our latest AI, the Chimera. Part snake, part goat, part lion. Todd has just unleashed the Cestus on him, and you can see it's a brawling weapon. Now, the way the Chimera works is it's a three-stage enemy. First, you fight the snake stage, and then it changes its stance, and you fight the lion stage. We're really having fun with gore on this game. Entering the Cyclops. Every action that the Cyclops makes is a direct reaction from the pain that Kratos is inflicting on him. Well, that's our newest upgrade, the Helios head. It can be used to reveal secrets. Todd has now found the door of Eos. Another thing the Helios head can be used as is a lantern in darkened areas. This is our newest form of travel in God of War, Icarus Ascension. Todd now has full flight controls over Kratos and basically dodging gameplay. That's it.
Oh my God, fantastic. It was great.
It was phenomenal. I mean, like, I thought that I had a concept of what it would be like, but this pretty much blew everything completely out of the water.
We're putting a lot into this game. I said I think this game needs to be a defining game for this generation, and I truly believe it will be. I can't comment on what the future holds for the series because, you know, I'm focused on God of War 3 right now, but this is God of War is, this is it. This is the end of the story. We got a lot of work to do, so there's no time for relaxing, that's for sure. E3 is obviously a big thing. We got to get this playable to the public, what we just showed on the demo here. We're in pretty good shape for that, but we got to get the game done. But we still got a lot of work left to do.
Right now for E3, pretty nervous about it. Nervous, I mean, think nervous isn't a bad thing. You know, you should be nervous. Your nerves should be on edge or else you're not going to get the thing done right.
It's kind of ironic that most people would have been happy with the reaction for the press demo, and we were kind of like We could have done better. We've undertaken to basically change the rendering path between February and E3 to make it look much prettier and much more next-gen. We have this amazing capacity to never know when to stop. Hopefully it'll all come together. I think it will. It's looking very nice. We definitely know how to pressure ourselves.
This team sets the bar really high. We could settle for a lot less and probably be a lot closer to being done, but with this group, they're never satisfied. Yeah. We never do things the easy way.
Personally, I'm worried, but then I think it's good that I'm worried because that forces me to actually get this shit done.
Good. There's definitely pressure, self-created pressure, and then pressure from other departments just to get everything done. We're all just trying to do our best.
I think the most pressure we get is from ourselves. Every team is always looking at the other team's work and commenting and critiquing. So we're really pushing each other the most, I think.
It's a lot of back and forth.
The following week, it's absolutely nothing moves because we're going to need to take every freaking second to make sure it's stable, and we are at frame rate. So, stay with that. You want to just...
The dead soldiers on the ground aren't in the poses?
Nope, and they don't have blood streaks and stuff in here.
Tyler's doing blood streaks.
Alright, so we need a book over here then. The inactive mode would look like kind of like it does right now with the book shut. The active mode, the book would open up and would have like a glow around it.
We have to open and close the book.
Yeah, there's a bug for it.
Wish I would have known that when we built it, because we didn't build it to open and close.
Wait, you need the book to open and close?
Yeah.
There's no limit to good ideas, but there is a limit to how many of those good ideas that you can actually implement. And even if you make decisions and you make progress on things, it doesn't mean that you can get all those things done.
We need to be able to tell people this thing is active now.
Can we remove it for E3?
Are you serious?
No, I'm not. I mean, there's a lot of other shit here to get done besides getting a book to have in an active states.
Let's say we don't do the open and close for E3. It would just have a glow effect and a light that comes with it, and that's it.
Do we just put a sparkle on it then?
Absolutely have any compromise for the schedule right now. I have to trust production, and I have to trust the fact that they're telling me that we can't get things done. So I feel like there's little things that have been compromised. I don't know that the player's going to necessarily miss them, but I sure am. It's part of making games. You don't always get what you want.
This seems like harder than the last time I played it.
We'd have to keep in mind that somebody from the street is going to be playing those harpies. And I don't know. The way it looks right now, on 3 tries, people will throw down the controller.
The stuff we just went through, pretty rough. It's a little frustrating from the respect that it's been kind of at this state for a long time now. Kind of wondering when it's going to get fixed. The struggle or the challenge.
If it doesn't get fixed this week, we're screwed.
This is sprint week, meaning we're making a big push this week to get a lot of work done and make some headway going into E3.
As far as crunch goes, we're not going to call it crunch anymore. We're going to call it a sprint, and then everything will be fine. So as long as we do that.
Change the name, it'll all be fine.
Tonight's the first night of
crunch.
Yeah.
Yeah, so...
We don't like the euphemism
Yeah,
sprint.
Fuck. I hate crunch. It sucks.
Right now, I'm creating a new build, and hopefully that will enable the rest of the studio to then continue working on the awesome content that they're creating for E3. They're definitely waiting on me. Definitely.
As far as my end, I feel I'm okay, but then at the same time, I kind of feel like I'm waiting on technology a little bit to kind of come online.
We just have a ton of bugs to fix. We're getting new technology right now, and the lighting's kind of broken, fog's kind of broken, so we're just trying to kind of survive, fix all our bugs, and get all of our tech in place so we can get this thing done.
You're sprinting now.
Tonight's the first time the team has worked together as one, and there's a certain kind of level of excitement that goes into it and dread because we're still working, but it's a fun group to be with, and we're trying to get stuff done.
You know, we can only do so much, right? And we'll just try to do as much as possible, as quickly as possible, and that's it. Hopefully we end up with something pretty cool, though.
This is the biggest E3 we'll ever have. Everybody wants to still see if Santa Monica still has it.
Last 2 weeks have been very, very intense. I actually got here this morning a half hour before the shrine actually opened to deliver live code for what we're playing this morning. I didn't have that code until yesterday afternoon.
The Sony press conference is their big moment, 2 hours to like show all the new stuff they have. And it's going to be broadcast on live TV and web. And we're going to end the show with God of War 3. Anytime that you go first or last, if you open the show or close the show, it's an honor.
I guess we're happy that Sony seems so committed to our game. It's nice that all of our hard work over the last 7 years, really, because that's how long we've been working on the God of War series in total, is really getting the reception that it seems to be getting.
We're real excited that we're closing the press conference. It's a great opportunity. It's a great way to end. We're going to be live on stage playing real live code. So nerves are definitely high.
Like a lot of jitters.
Stig's going to be talking and I'm going to be playing on stage, so a little stressful. Got to take the edge off a little bit. Headlining scares the shit out of me. I've never done something this big, standing in front of 2,000 people or however many it is.
This is one of the most eagerly anticipated games of this generation. I'd like to invite Stig Asmussen to the stage to show you the first few minutes of the jaw-dropping God of War 3.
We at Sony Santa Monica Studios are excited to be able to present this live demo of God of War 3. God of War 3 is the final chapter in our fantasy trilogy, based on the dark side of Greek mythology. Now our design director, Todd Happy, will take point on the controls, and we'll get into our demo.
I'm really anxious. I'm really excited. This is a really important moment for the team. It's important for the game. I hope that we make the impression that we always strive for. One line. Amazing, fucking awesome. People really seem to dig it. This went well. I don't see how it could have gone any better.
Oh, I'm kind of glad that E3 is back. It's pretty exciting. It's been a couple of years since there was a really decent-sized E3. It's always exciting to have your game here.
This is what we work for. E3 is like Christmas.
We've got 12 kiosks set up with God of War. We had a great time last night setting it up. It was actually, we got there, the Sony booth was relatively quiet. All the games were up and running, but there weren't a lot of people playing anything. We started loading in the God of War, and people started lining up behind me to play it. I had somebody tell me today, one of the producers of another product told me when we got in there and loaded our code, all work stopped at the Sony booth so they could come play our product. Hugely flattering, big kudos to the team. Got chills just having that whole experience. It was awesome.
It was excellent. It was, disgusting and exciting all at the same time.
I waited an hour to play that game. When you finally get to decapitate Halo's head, that was like amazing. Didn't expect to see that.
It's pretty brutal. I mean, way more brutal than like the first two. Every new game, they bump it up a little bit, so it's definitely good stuff. I waited in line 2 hours to play. What can I say? It's God of War with unforgiving amounts of violence, great gameplay, kind of thing that, just spend all day playing, not call your girlfriend, whatever, who cares, right?
I'm super pumped to see it.
And working on God of War 3. This is my new helper or friend. Hold on. Let's restart that. I speak in clicks. Okay, wait, hold on. Ready? This is my partner, Jesse, Cheese Whiz. That's all I can say. I'm working on God of War 3 here, making the greatest effects. Got a partner now, Jesse. He's awesome. It's going to be great having some help on God of War 3. And, yeah, cool. I looked on the internet and find out all these different movie special effects, kind of duplicated what they did. We filmed the blood and the idea that maybe we could use some of it for textures.
Going to be like a spray instead of the last one just leaking out. This one should spray like kind of like more like an artery. Oh, that's pretty great.
And what we found out, the simplest one was just like kind of like a water bottle filled up with movie blood. And that kind of gave them almost best squirting effect out of all the blood.
Some good blood today. I know my partner here, Jesse, sacrificed a lot to help out. He donated the blood for us, and I'm really glad we had Jesse here to help us out.
He's sweet.
Yeah, Jesse's really sorry. Jesse, watch out. Okay, thank you.
We used a couple little parts of it right here. This is the film blood. You got a series of images that you rendered out. You put those on the polygonal cards, and that's what you're throwing out of the particle system, basically, or splatting on the ground. That's kind of what's going around in the game, is the little blood splatters when Kratos gets hit or enemies get hit.
We're over here at Leo's desk, and just, you want to say hi, Leo?
Hi, everybody.
Tell us about the pink ball. Is that something that you decided to put in, that pink spiky ball, or was just...
Well, yeah, I just decided to kind of create pink yo-yo.
One cool thing about this character also is that he's actually kind of like a throwback character. We're bringing him back from God of War 1. He actually wasn't in God of War 2, because we definitely want to keep reminding the player that this is a trilogy. It's like, they're not supposed to be seen as separate games. So what about animating Kratos? Like, what are some of the things that are kind of challenging?
He has a specific poses that describing him. He has a kind of like a language of poses. You have to use those poses to invent some new animation. So.
We're fortunate to have Leo here because he's joining us for God of War 3. He actually is one of the newest members of the team, so he's doing a great job.
One of the factors of animation is that you're kind of trying to make it invisible. The more successful we are, the less you really notice the animation.
The stuff we've got going on with our boss fights is going to look really impressive. It's another kind of key development for this game, I think.
We're working a lot with the designers, like way more closely, and creating new things with them.
There's a certain type of feeling that in animation we have to achieve. And the most important part, of course, is Kratos and how he moves. Kratos is very direct. We don't try to make him too fancy. If you notice, a lot of times when he's having conversations, he's just kind of standing there waiting for the moment where he needs to say something.
Everything that Kratos does happens for a reason. I don't know if many people even notice these things, but Kratos never moves backwards. He's an aggressive character. He moves with a purpose at all times.
We actually have wooden swords laying around all the time. We definitely get up and try to act it out. It's definitely always hazardous to walk around the animation area. You gotta watch out.
What are the challenges of animating something that big?
Planning out where everything needs to be, like nothing happens on accident. You need to know where everything is. I did not know that it was gonna be this big. I just had an idea and I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna go with it, which is kind of a bad idea. I learned my lesson. At the same time, I'm glad that it's the size that it is. The players will be happy that it's in there. I think they'll get an adrenaline rush just from seeing the sequence.
Kratos, your death will not be a gentle one. My eyes!
Character modeling is taking the art from visual development and turning it into a 3D model, painting it, giving it life, and then handing it off to our character riggers who send it off to animation. So we actually create the object itself.
It's in general just become, I guess you'd say, more sophisticated, but it's more of a traditional media now. It's kind of, if you know how to sculpt traditionally, then you're going to transfer right in. Traditional skills are playing a more important role, which is great.
Do you feel that you've channeling the great masters of art history to help you achieve a new level?
Raphael, you know, they speak to me.
Really? One of the big things that I was looking forward to doing is nasty stuff like this, because before this I had been doing more technical stuff, more like realistic humans. Doing realism is fun to a certain extent. It's more fun to do something that's slightly realistic. There's more artistic license as far as where you can go with it. With realism, there is no artistic license.
Creature design is kind of the most exciting thing. Like Peter was saying, artistic freedom, and just you can do kind of whatever you want and you push things. I mean, that's what the great masters did, so it's just exciting to work on that kind of thing.
Here's my workstation. I have my Cintiq, which is what we use to paint and model. This is the monitor that we can actually draw on, paint on the screen, sculpt in ZBrush, which is very helpful and amazing. And then on the left of me, I have my standard monitor where I usually keep my reference. We're able to give metal a kind of specularity that we couldn't before. Scratches, blood, a real shine and realism that we couldn't deliver on the last project. We are working with a lot more polygons and a lot more textures on our project this time, per object.
Here's Hermes, the concept art that I got from Andy Park, who did a great job. You can see the boots are in there and what color they're supposed to be, what material. We're still working on the cloth, making sure that's all rigged nicely. And right now, I'm fighting with the hair, trying to make the hair look good. So hopefully by the time you see this in the game, it'll be looking nice and transparent. So here we are starting him out in ZBrush and adding a lot of the little detail. Say if you wanted his skin to bulge around these straps, it would be really easy to go ahead and just add musculature in here.
Today you may defeat me, but in the end, Kratos, you'll betray only yourself.
This is the centaur in our game. Andy Park did the concept. They always do like a color version first like this to kind of nail the feel of the character and like what he's all about. And then they'll give us these turnarounds like this one. We have, you know, the horses have these like chest muscles that kind of flow up into the horse neck, you know, this way. And we have abdomen muscles and these obliques that kind of flow in. And where our hips sit, you know, is kind of where their shoulder blades sit. So typically most people draw centaurs. You know, I'm not the first one to make one of these things, so, you know, this has been thought about before. But typically, you know, our hips, like where the hips would sit on a human, they put where the shoulder blades would be. It feels kind of like it would work, you know.
Kratos was created from scratch simply because we weren't sure where we wanted to go in the third game, if we were going to change him at all, or if we were going to maintain the PS2 silhouette and essentially the same exact character. We felt like it might be an opportunity to really make some changes to him, considering the level of fidelity and sophistication and what we could create now on the PS3. We started out way out there. 2.5 years later, we decided that he looks like the PS2 model. So we're back to where we started, but it's really coming together, and it's right for the game. Kratos is a very heroic, very stylized silhouette, a very thin waist, very broad shoulders. He has kind of a swimmer's build on steroids. He's 8.5 feet tall, and he has a head the size of a 4-foot-tall person. His waist is probably thinner than all of our wives. He's a trippy-looking guy, but he reads really well in the game. Basically what I'm working on now is we've got an upper body and a mesh that the art director, as well as the director, really like. So now it's a matter of creating a blend map, which is new technology for Sony Santa Monica, in that we can do expressions. Basically, I'm just creating the rage, sculpting him looking angry, and we'll be able to blend this new facial expression into the current model. So we can go from here to here. The satisfaction comes in seeing him in the game saying, wow, that's him. Only look, you can see his veins and you can see him breathing. And it looks better than the cinematics. That's kind of that's the satisfaction.
destruction of Olympus!
Caden's crow in the opening cinematic flies down and ends up landing on this hapless victim. And as he's eating the guy, he rips the eyeball out of the socket. So it's especially like juicy and nasty. Later today, I'll be working on the vein that the eyeball's attached to. So maybe the crow can like wrestle the eye out and really get some good squirming going on in the audience, sort of thing. The way it works is that you lay down your base color. For example, with this guy, you get like a good skin tone going. And then from there, you add additional details. Like with this guy, his main details are the cuts that he has and then the dirt that's added. There's some sort of distortion going on here, and that's because it's actually being wrapped in 3D. So you can sort of feel where the chin line is just because of how these are bending.
This is Hercules, and he's wearing these cestises, and basically they're like these huge gauntlets. Just trying to get across the fact that he's kind of like this aged warlord. He's not a super fresh young guy, so he's got some fat to him and some history. He's basically Kratos' brother, so a lot of the visual elements that he has, I think, parallel what Kratos wears. The really fun stuff was sculpting his flesh and his muscles and whatnot. Like, this is a final concept image, but we take it a step further and put a level of polish on it that isn't there, because once it's here, this is a beautiful painting, but once it goes in the game, it needs to be perfect at every angle. Every angle you look at it has to be a great piece of work. So it's you have to go in and you take this and you take everything a step further, and there can't be any mistakes.
Call it my 13th and final labor. Soon I will become the god of war and claim the throne for myself.
The role of a combat designer on God of War 3 is a complex role. Basically has anything to do with characters in the game. Any character you see moving in the game, attacking, fighting, are generally implemented by the combat designer. And then, of course, Kratos. What his platforming elements are going to be, what his new combat moves are going to be, what weapons he's going to use, how he's going to use them, how he walks, everything. I'm here with Jason McDonald, who's a senior combat designer on God of War 3. And we're just talking about the new features that we have in the game and what we're trying to add to the God of War franchise.
Well, we've got some of Kratos' items in. He can grab a head and he can light stuff up. Now that we can play with lighting in God of War 3, we can make the entire room dark, have enemies that are attacking you in the dark, can't be seen. And when you light them up with the head, they light up for a limited amount of time, so you can attack them while you can see them, but then they are constantly disappearing.
You get to parts where it's completely pitch dark and you hear the guys scream in the background. You use the Helios head to, find out where they are. The strategy gameplay, the combat side of it turns into you have to keep these guys lit to be able to hit them, otherwise you get screwed and they just destroy you in the dark. So.
Definitely something we couldn't do before just because we didn't have dynamic lighting to the extent that we have it now, so.
We got the combat grapple in. We
tried the grapple stuff in God of War 2, but since we were limited on memory and animations and things like that, we just couldn't do it, and if we couldn't do it well, then we weren't going to do it at all, so we just didn't do it. But now we have more space, more memory. Kratos is a very strong character, so when he grapples an enemy, he kind of just charges right in and plows through everybody. So the grapple system is exactly like that. You can launch somebody in the air and you grapple them and you plow yourself right into the air, right into them. If there's a crowd of enemies, you'll plow yourself through all of them.
Hey, I'm at Brian Hughes' desk here. He's a senior combat designer on God of War 3.
For this particular boss, which is a huge scorpion, you want to make sure the presence is there and the player will feel the power of the attack. Usually for attacks for boss character, you want them to be really recognizable so the player knows it's coming, because if the player cannot recognize the move and react in time, they get hit, because it's boss character, you will take a lot of damage. So it's not fun, if you don't see the attack coming, you're being hit. So that's something that we try to work really hard on.
I'm here with Jason DeHarris, combat designer on God of War 3. And we're just looking over some of the writable stuff that's early in development. So how do you think it's going?
It's all right in terms of Kratos. He still wants to kill this beast that's in his way to his ultimate goal. So it's not really his friend, so he's not really telling it to attack. He's just trying to kill it, and then the indirectness of that is the Cyclops reacting to his pain, pretty much. But then there's a challenge of making it feel responsive as well. So I guess it's kind of disguising that responsiveness with the pain reaction. So even the pain reaction is really a hit, actually.
As you can see, we got a bunch of grunts on screen right now, and when you're fighting all these grunts, like taking on, doing a special move or, grabbing each one and killing them, that can be kind of slow. This will be an awesome tool for, like, you see the Cyclops in there, you're just like, I want to get after the Cyclops so I can jump on his back and do tons of damage and kill these guys quicker. But just like any other feature, we have to prove that it's going to be fun and good. And, if it's not, we got to get rid of it because everything has to be fun.
San Diego this week capturing mocap for cinematics. Stigmetti and I came down here about 4 months ago just to tour the facilities. It's really impressive down here, actually. It's a big stage. They do full body mocap. They can do hands and faces down here, and they have a ton of crazy toys. It's amazing that we have this facility that Sony owns that is basically at our disposal, and the teams here are really great.
We're suiting up. Getting her suited up for the day, yeah. Velcro custom suit we get made specifically for motion capture. We have some colored panels on there just to accentuate the actors when they're out there, just to make sure that we can see exactly what's going on instead of having an all-black suit with the all-black floor. And
this is the Gumby suit.
Ready to mocap.
Mocap is basically markers in space that are seen by cameras. They're calibrated to be able to be triangulated into a certain point in space.
It really serves as kind of a basis for us to layer animation on top of.
Got a little coffee. My shades on. This is how we do LA mocap.
Body twist, ankle and knee. This is called the ROM, or the range of motion, where we show all of our flexibility and bendability of our body so that the computer can track our markers.
Gaia and Titans are going to be climbing up Mount Olympus, so this is our Mount Olympus right there.
Don't try this at home, kids.
As much as I've directed before was with my little sister and my little brother when we were kids, and our parents had the video camera. But it's fun. I think if you know what to do and you can communicate with people honestly and you know what you want, they love it, and people are having fun if you are. Ariel, we're going to do the following now?
We're not necessarily as concerned with perfection in really subtle movements because we know that that subtle animation is going to be done by the animators in-house. As long as we can see the character there, then we're getting what we want.
This is the real-time feed of the actual character of the motion capture being done. So you're actually seeing like a stick figure, but it's actually a skeletal figure of Richard, the actor, being out there.
We don't see your feet in that shot, so it doesn't really matter where they are. And break your symmetry if you can, so both arms aren't exactly the same. Rolling. All right, thank you. That was good.
Yeah, what you're actually seeing here is the mocap actor actually driving the Gaia character in real time. So,
Tear it down?
It's definitely amazing technology.
Take two, ready.
Rolling. All right, good, thank you.
Eddie is doing well. He's been a great director. Definitely knows the shot he wants, and he gets it.
We sit at a desk all day, and I also like to move around. I think as a director, you should be able, to a certain degree, to do what your actors are doing. So you know what you're asking of them. You can show them if you have to. And, I don't know, you get closer to their performance. Don't ever put that in the making of video.
It's a
This is actually a first for me to do motion capture on a bed with pillows.
We are working on the
sex minigame.
The sex minigame with Aphrodite. So we'll have two of the girls today just doing both the parts of the servant girls and Aphrodite, which we have blocked out. So should be an interesting afternoon. If we have time tomorrow afternoon, maybe we'll put Mehdi in a suit because there are some things I'm sure.
If I'm going to do that, I'd rather do it now to do the sex minigame with Ava and Michelle.
Well, I'm not directing it if you get in a suit, that's all I gotta say.
I'll direct from the bed.
Yeah.
I'll be Aphrodite, I'll be like, you touch me here, you put your leg there. Yes. Let's do take 55. Ava? All right, let's do take 1.
Kratos, it's been far too long. Even though you are no longer the god of war, you can still share my bed. Come, Kratos. Let us forget all about Zeus for a while.
You know I cannot.
Ah, is that what has you all worked up? You are trying to figure out that bridge contraption out there. Please do not deny me this one last pleasure.
That was great. Cut.
Ah, is that what has you all worked up? You are trying to figure out that bridge contraption out there. You men and your toys.
Exactly. That's good.
I think for casting for this, Mehdi found people who were good with their body in terms of motion.
We picked actors that had to be comfortable with a little bit of stunt work and a little bit of naughty work.
I think everything went really smoothly.
And then we got really lucky because all the actors turned out to be great people and they got along really well, so there's a really good atmosphere.
We went out to dinner last night and had a great time, like just talking and talking about mocap and cinematics and video games, and it's just really nice to be somewhere where people appreciate all the work that goes into it.